So this is that horrible situation, hence the massive introduction. It did actually take quite a while for, it did actually take quite a while for us to organise this. Also, before I actually start, I want to thank every single person that has been involved in making this possible. So thank you so much to Paul, who's done the sound. Also, thank you to Ricky. He's not actually here right now. He's on holiday. He was supposed to come back this morning, but he's stranded at Belfast airport. Yeah, accidentally, but it's worked out perfectly for me, so that doesn't matter. I'd also like to thank. Sorry, I've got me all over the shop. I do apologise. There we go. I'd like to thank Daffod and Rosie for coming to take time out to film it. I'd also like to thank every single act. So we've got Josie. Matthew. Matt, I love the While She Sleeps vest. You're a sleeps brother now. We're in it together. Yeah. Socialism all the way, mate. You won't be screaming out when you're eating a bag of beans until next week. So, I'd also like to thank Mr. Liam Copeland. I'd like to thank Jay Grande. Also, he was one of the ones that came up. He's over there. Yeah, thank you very much. And also Mr. Craig Newbury, he's actually asked me for a half-hour set now, and I'm not sure we've got enough time for that. So we have got enough time for that. Yeah. Okay. So once you get disappointed by me, we'll put Craig back on. We'll be okay. It'll be absolutely fine. So now we actually move on to my material, which is it all goes downhill from here. Generally what I do is people that have come to my acts before, I bring like a show and tell item. So, to sort of pass around the crowd, and it builds up a rapport between all of us, and it's fantastic. And, it kind of draws the attention away from the fact that there's a man trying to rip off Russell Brand and Jack Sparrow at the same time. So it does kind of help that out. So before it was the most amazing thing in the world. I had this potato. It was this potato. I suppose I should tell you the story behind the potato. There was one day, Francesca, my wonderful girlfriend, she's here. Also, I want to thank Fran so much. Honestly, this whole sort of bohemian, sort of wonderful look is down to Fran. So if we can give Fran a massive So there was one day, it was like a Sunday evening, and we just finished work, and we're both a bit tired, and Fran said, oh, let's have sausage and mash for dinner. So we had sausage and mash, and Fran was there, making my dinner, peeling potatoes, as she should. And one day, just this moment, I found this potato, and it looked just like Jay Leno, and it was about 3 days before my first gig, and I thought, fuck, I've got no material. And then all of a sudden, this potato just turned up out of nowhere, looking just like Jay Leno. It was the most incredible, wonderful thing in the whole world. And, it did almost make me believe that there is a God out there, and it did almost make me believe that the world is only 2,000 years old. And I thought, right, I'm going to take this potato, I'm going to take it to my gig, and I'm just going to pass it around, it's going to be fantastic, and all that kind of stuff. And then obviously that was about 18 months ago, and as generally group festivals go, they do actually die. There was actually a point where I tried varnishing it with PVA glue, because I am an 8-year-old at heart, and it didn't really work, so it kind of died. So what I moved on after that is, it was a crisp. I found a crisp, and it looked just like, does anyone know the work of Edvard Munch? Do you know the painting, the screen painting? So I found a crisp that looked just like that. And it was incredible, and the worst thing is, because it's a crisp and because it's so fragile, and generally like with your stand-up gigs you have to travel, all the way across London to all these gigs, so I had to put in its own sort of little padded lunchbox. And there I am, having to go to this gig during rush hour on a Friday night to about 4 people, literally just crammed into a train like that. I'm just like, for fuck's sake, this is going to be worth it, honestly, it's 5 minutes, honestly, I'll be live on Apollo any time now. And here I am, just chauffeuring this fucking crisp out. This crisp hasn't even given me any fucking travel money. This crisp has done fuck all. I mean, what the fuck has this crisp ever done for me, other than look like Edvard Munch's screen, one of the most famous paintings of all time? And I'm thinking, what the fuck? Why am I chauffeuring around this fucking crisp? This crisp that Yeah, I mean, to anyone else, I could give it to you and you go, that just looks like a crisp. And then I'm thinking, well, no, perspective, man. And then I'm thinking, no, actually, no, I'm chauffeuring this crisp around. And then one day, someone came out to me before a giggle, it's Joe, I think you overthink things. And I thought, maybe you're right. And the only way I can describe me overthinking things is one day I was reading this book. And, you know, being the communist and socialist that I am and all that kind of stuff, you know, long hair, we're all in it together. So one day I was reading this book and capitalism generally started about 12,000 years ago. It was the agricultural revolution. And it was generally farming, because farming and then sort of segregating our farming meant that we no longer lived within our means. So that meant we had surplus, which means that we had money, which then led to debit, which then led to credit, which then led to debt, which then led to a state, which then led to bureaucracy, which then led to policing, which then led to religion, because the poor people, obviously farming, had to feel equal to the people earning thousands and thousands of pounds. So this is what they did. They created religion, and then I was sat there in Wetherspoons, nursing a pint one day, thinking about this, mulling it over, and there was a guy just within earshot on the phone to, I assume, was his girlfriend. It could have been his sister, but they could have been the same. And they went, I don't give a fuck! The whole system is fucking bollocks! Right, I went down the job centre, they can't offer me anything, and I thought, he's basically summed up my whole thought process in 4.5 seconds, which is very, very impressive. And then I thought, oh no, actually it's good to read a book now and again, it's good to be educated, it's good to do that. And I think, oh no, actually I kind of admire this guy, and you know, how blunt and to the point he is, and it's fantastic how sort of, you know, he gets things done. He might have a job, he might just be unlucky. You know, he could be doing anything with his life. And then I overheard him again going, I don't give a fuck, I want chicken nuggets and fish fingers for dinner. And at that point, I started to realise that maybe overthinking things might be good. So I'm generally told in my comedy that I might be a bit socialist. I'm not sure if you told from that last set there. So what I'm going to do now is a bit of current affairs. Everyone loves a bit of current affairs, don't they? Yeah? So what's happening in the world? Stuff's happening in the world. Brexit, I just heard Brexit. I mean, that was quite a while ago, love, but no, thank you for the contribution. The weather, yeah, Donald Trump. And then what else is there? I think Oxfam. Oxfam is happening at the moment. And I've got this sort of weird sort of idea about Oxfam, is that obviously they all came out that, you know, they went to Haiti, and then obviously there was sexual assault, and they were obviously paying prostitutes to have sex. But I mean, the way that it's been portrayed in the news, and also by the Haitian government. The thing with the Haitian government, which I don't quite understand, is that, I mean, they're pretty dodgy as it is, and they've all come out on Twitter going, Oxfam, this is ridiculous, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to humanity in the whole world. As if every Oxfam worker was signed up going, wait, Johnny boys out here, we gotta get a couple of prostitutes, here I go, woo, yeah! No, it doesn't make sense, there's no way that that's gonna happen. It just doesn't make sense the way it's been portrayed, it's stupid. So now that I've spoken about root vegetables, what else did I talk about? Oxfam, prostitutes, Haitian prostitutes, which I assume are lovely as any other prostitutes. And, you know, anyone's in the market, I'm all encompassing. Jack, I mean, I do like you. You've got a bit too much penis for my liking. So, talking about sort of going away and all that kind of stuff, Francesca, she's around here somewhere, and she's collecting prices. There's Brian, over there. I got told that I can't swing my microphone around, which makes me really, really want to swing it around a little bit more. feel like Lenny Bruce right now, this is exciting. So no, anyway, sorry, Francesca, she went travelling, it was last summer, she went travelling towards Thailand to go meet a very dear friend of hers. And she went away for a month or so. And the first question I got confronted with was, why didn't you go with her? And I thought, well, I don't really want to talk about feelings for a while. So, obviously I let Francesca, I let her, sorry that sounds awful, because if I'm a 1950s, I'm a 1950s houseboat, yes, you must come back in my stupid DMs and see-through shirt. Yes, I do look ridiculous, but then there is Matthew. Sorry, you're the only person I can see Matthew just as well. So Fran went away to Thailand for about a month, and I was kind of apprehensive. Not just for her safety, obviously that is a given. Obviously, you know, someone that you're very much in love with, you're upset for her safety. I was more concerned by like her meeting some guy from Surrey called Tristan, who, you know, he's got blonde dreadlocks, and you know he complains about the West being far too consumed by money, while spending his mum and dad's trust fund on hacky sacks and baggy trousers with pictures of elephants on. And I was kind of worried that Fran. And I was kind of worried that Fran was going to come back, sort of, you know, as this person. It's like, oh no, man, you know, you need to change your ways. You know, you work too hard. You need to do that. This is going to be awful. That was why I was so worried. And then she came back, and I met her. Well, she came back a day. I was planning on meeting her at the airport. She managed to come back a day late, so I finally met her, and she came back exactly the same. And I thought, thank you, Jack, there. That kind of stole my punchline. So there I was, racking my brains, thinking, why has she come back exactly the same? And it probably turns out that, well, she was a vegan before she went. So that's essentially why. Oh, controversial veganism, yeah. No, I'm actually a vegan myself, and it's actually a lot easier nowadays to be a vegan. I mean, even Ben and Jerry's have got their own vegan range of ice cream. I mean, you can get vegan pizza, you can get vegan sausage. Like, it's a whole lot easier than it used to be. I mean, I like the hardcore vegans, like the fucking, like those kind of vegans. You know, like if you eat a cheese sandwich in their presence, it looks like they're going to kick the fuck out of you. One of those kind of vegans. And you know, you see them at Sainsbury's running around with like half their hair shaved off, going, yeah, down with the government, yeah, don't eat meat, all that. And you know, got the head shaved, and you think, well, that's a political statement. Then you realise that it's probably malnutrition. and the reason that I became a vegan was obviously because Fran was a vegan before me, and I have no backbone whatsoever. No. Thank you. Yeah, if you keep shouting, it might turn up. Those Haitian prostitutes might be here any moment now. We don't know. So there I was there thinking about veganism, and I thought, well, my family's here right now. Thank you so much for coming along. I think stand-up comedy is the only one art form where you can get away with saying cunt or fuck, and your parents will still look at you with some sort of pride. That's the way I see it. And the reason that I originally became a vegan was because, I mean, I'm sure that my family all testify to this. I mean, I am very much I like living a bohemian lifestyle, and I've always I enjoy hedonistic acts, and, maybe I do drink a bit too much now and again, and I mean, there is a skill when it comes to being a functioning alcoholic. And then I was thinking, so the only, thank you, Liam. Yeah, Liam works in finance, so we're all bankrupt in the morning. And so when it comes to veganism, it's the only sort of discipline that I have in my life. And the only way that I can sort of describe me sort of being a hedonist and all that kind of stuff is I actually went to uni a few years ago. I went to University of Portsmouth and I did creative writing and film studies. Yeah, waste of time, yeah. No, honestly, I'm that middle class that I can do creative writing at university. And my first week of university, not like freshers week, because that doesn't count, like my first actual studying week, my poetry lecturer, yes, I had a poetry lecturer. I suppose most of you don't even have a poetry lecturer. No. Maybe you should think about it. Yeah. Your poetry lecturers. So there was one day that my poetry lecturer, in my first week of university, said to me, I had to give him a load of my poems, and he went, oh, this is amazing. You remind me just of Morrissey. And after that, honestly, after that, I just assumed that I completed university after the first week. So my university career was 1 week of being called Morrissey, followed by a 3-year hangover. And that was essentially my university career. Now I'm going to go on to the tricky subject. I'm sure some of you might be aware, I recently quit my job at the Swan. Thank you. And generally the reason was because I fucking hated it. But they did offer me a bedroom, so it's one of those awkward situations. It's like, well, I live here, but I fucking hate the job. Not you people, I'm sure you people are lovely. Serving the general public is brilliant, but 90% of the general public are knobheads. So what I like to do, so what I did when I was researching this stand-up thing was I went online and it was like this anonymous like online review kind of website thing. And you got to write whatever you wanted, and obviously it was anonymous, so you had to write pros, cons, and then what you would do to make it better. Under pros, they put, there are absolutely no pros whatsoever to this job, other than getting paid, which is generally a legal requirement. Under cons, they left it blank. And then under what would they do to improve the system, they put fuck the system. And so what I like to do when I was at work is that if someone asked me for a napkin, no, I wasn't quite that brazen. I mean, obviously I still wanted to get paid. So if someone asked me for a napkin, I gave them one too many. I mean, I'm bringing them down from the inside, that's what I do. I felt like Serpico. This was my moment. I felt like Edward Snowden, but with too much time on his hands and a fuckload of napkins. So I'm just bringing them down. And one day, sometime, somewhere, wherever, someone at head office, it's probably going to be long after I die, is going to go, why the fuck are we spending so much money on napkins? And then the other thing that I like to do is that, are we all aware of the bottled beer called Sol? Yeah. So what I like to do is one day, a shit Corona, thank you Jack. Well, there we go, yeah. Let's all go down to the bar now. So what I like to do is, there was one evening, and because obviously it's died out a bit, but we were Towie Town for a very long time, weren't we? And there was one evening, this couple came in. And the fella let his girlfriend order for her, and she went, I'll have a large Chardonnay. As you do, I mean it was Essex, and a Sol. She went, I'll have a large Chardonnay and a Sol. And I thought, this is far too easy, so I went, do you want the beer or the abstract concept? Can I take you everywhere? You're my biggest fan. Now that we're getting into the point of being shafted by your work, it was a few months ago that I actually had to go for a colonoscopy. If anyone that doesn't understand what a colonoscopy is, it's basically a very well-educated man shoving a camera up your arse. And the worst thing is that before the colonoscopy itself, you had to go to go and meet the what are they called, Mark? What are they called? You had to go and meet the consultant. So you're pre-negotiating a well-educated man shoving an expensive piece of equipment up your arse, and I thought, should I be charging you for this? And then, so obviously you go through this whole situation, and then it finally came the day of the actual colonoscopy itself. And I mean, it's not something that people actually want to wake up to. It's not a nice situation. You go and you go and meet some sort of nurse. You go and meet some sort of nurse, and they obviously take your blood levels, all that kind of stuff, and you know it's all very awkward. And then what they do is give you like a gown and a pair of underpants just with a hole in the back, and they go, right, there's the room to go and get changed. And then all of a sudden they go for going, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. So go and get changed over there. It sort of went from kind of imagine roundabout to Auschwitz all of a sudden. I don't really understand. And then obviously I had to get changed, and then obviously I was just sat there, and there was 3 other blokes sat there. And what is the protocol for 4 blokes sat in a room together? It's like, oh mate, are you excited? Yeah. So there's no form of conversation with these 3 people. There's just 4 blokes sat in an empty room just staring down on the floor. And then I thought, I'm wearing my hospital gown, I'm going to try and style this out. So I thought I put my stupidly coloured Dr. Martens on to try and look cooler. It was probably the worst decision of my life. And then obviously they kind of drug you, which is obviously the best part. And then you've got this half-hour process of, that I don't even want to talk about it. And then you get wheeled out afterwards, and you haven't eaten in 2 days, so they give you a biscuit, and then they offer you a cup of tea. And I was still slightly high when they offered me a cup of tea. So they went, oh, hello Stuart, would you like a cup of tea or coffee? I went, oh, I'll have a cup of tea please. They went, how'd you take it? Well, until about 10 minutes ago, up the arse. Well, weaker than a sailor's arse, so apparently this is a term from the homosexual contingent at the front of the club. So I'm gonna leave you with one final thing to consider. A lot of people ask me why I got into stand-up comedy. It's like, oh, I could do that. It's the most nerve-wracking thing in the whole world, that kind of stuff. The reason that I first got into stand-up comedy is, well, it wasn't the most conventional place to start a comedy career. It was actually my nan's funeral. My dad's there right now, bless him. He's the greatest human being. He's my inspiration. He's fantastic. He was fantastic. So what happened was we had to plan the funeral. Well, obviously my dad had to plan the funeral, and he asked me to do a poetry reading. Obviously, as you know, as I said before, I had a degree in basically sitting in a hammock reading Lord Byron all day. So while my dad was planning it, he very gracefully asked me to read a poem at my nan's funeral, and it was very lovely. And it came to I finally found a poem which I thought was beautiful and fantastic, all that kind of stuff. I didn't actually realise that one of my cousins was reading a poem before me. And funerals aren't the best affairs at the end of the time. They're not the best of occasions, are they? So my cousin was before me in reading the poem, and she said she wrote it. She didn't. Yeah. She googled a poem, but I mean, the thing is that it was so emotionally charged, and it was such an emotional affair, and she broke down in tears halfway through, and her mum had to come up and help her by the end of it, you know, to finish the poem, and you know, everyone's in tears, and I'm thinking, that was beautiful, and now I'm thinking, everyone's in tears, and now I'm thinking, fuck, how am I going to beat that? So it finally came to the end of the poem, and then the minister came up again and went, just to read one more poem, is Nanny Reen's grandson, Stuart. And I thought, fuck, how am I going to beat this? I thought, I'm going to open up with a joke. I had 2 jokes lined up, but after the first one, I think you'll realise. So I thought, how the fuck am I going to beat this? How am I going to beat this? So obviously I went up there, sort of had my poem all written out, you know, you're sort of in a church, all echoing. My parents are looking up at me, all bleary-eyed, so bleary-eyed, but you know, there's a sense of pride there, thinking, oh, that's my son up there, that's my son up there. So I opened up with, it's nice to think after £20,000 of debt, my dad has finally found a use of my loved morbid poetry. I looked up and my dad went from to like that. So I got through the poem as quickly as possible. So I went and sat down. No, hang on. I went and sat down next to my brothers. And I sat next to my brother Martin. He's not here. He's actually in Mexico. So I sat down. Yeah. He patted me on the back and he went, "Good jokes, Joe. Probably not the right time." And that's why I started doing stand-up comedy. I mean, it can't get worse than that. So thank you very much. Thank you to everyone that's come tonight. Thank you. If anyone wants to donate, we have got a bucket here. And thank you so much, guys, for coming down. It does mean a lot to me. Thank you.